I've been doing these videos, chronologically from the moment I was born to now. And this afternoon I was listening to a radio report on this tent city that has been erected in front of the provincial government building here in Newfoundland and Labrador. Our homelessness situation and our housing situation is very, very difficult, and a lot of people have resorted to actually living in tents. So as we speak, they are in their tents in front of the government building here in St. John's, Newfoundland. And as you can see, it is a beautiful day. It's raining outside. I'm getting rained on. But I've decided to come outside, and to put these horns on my head. I am a bull, after all. Taurus in horoscope. And to speak about this. I was born the way I was born. I grew up the way I grew up. I did what I did. And now I'm here in St. John's, Newfoundland. How did I get here? Watch the other videos. In 2018, I moved back to Newfoundland as a former professor of a prestigious university in South Korea. I was a cultural consultant with Hyundai and Samsung groups, again in South Korea. I've done so much work with different governments, with different art groups, with different levels of, the government institutions. And I was a rich man. I came here with like $120,000 in cash or whatever. Invested it into a business, and my family opened a restaurant. We bought a building, we bought a house, and opened a restaurant in the same building, and everything was supposed to be okay. Unfortunately, something that my wife never dealt with, and likewise I have the same problems, is post-traumatic stress disorder, and this is something that has affected our family greatly, especially my wife. She came here by herself because I was still, under contract in South Korea, so she spent one semester here with kids, and that greatly affected her. When I showed up here, I did not find the same person that left South Korea. She was obsessive, she was jealous, she was untrustworthy. She believed that somehow I was controlling her, somehow that I had cameras installed in our apartment, in her car, that I was tracking her phone, that I could see what she was doing on her phone, that these are some serious issues that, it's very difficult to talk about. For that reason, we wanted to get counseling. I wanted to get counseling. We reached out to social services, and they showed up. And even though, like, both my kids and myself told this story of my wife needing help, what she told them was different. She said, I was angry, she was afraid of me, and being a woman, of course, her word was unfortunately more important than mine. So what the social workers and the police told me was this: take your toothbrush and leave until we do our investigation. And you are not allowed to contact your wife, you're not allowed to contact your children, you must stay away for as long as we need to do the investigation. By doing so, I was removed from my home, from my restaurant, my vehicle was seized, access to my money was seized, and I became a person non grata, an undesirable person. Because every place that I turned to was basically, oh, so you beat your wife. And I was like, no, I have never, done that. Oh, you cheat on your wife? I have never done that also. Then what is the problem? My wife is obsessive. My wife is jealous. My wife is, you know, suffering. She needs help. So people were like, well, why doesn't she get the help? Or she doesn't want to get the help. She thinks I am the problem. She thinks I am the devil that is controlling her and the entire world. Which is true to a degree, definitely. Nevertheless, for a whole month, where do you think I left or I went? There was nowhere to go. I was too embarrassed to go to my friend's place. I was broken. I cried. There's videos that I recorded on this YouTube channel that speak about this experience, from the beginning of it. Like, it was horrible. I broke down completely. Every place I turned to was just basically, closed for me, because you cannot get an emergency shelter because you have money, you have a restaurant, you have home, you are a professor, man, get a job, do this. Like, how? Take your toothbrush and leave, and you're not supposed to go back to take. I had no underwear, I had no socks, I had nothing, man. Like, no place to turn. It's not like maybe my family lives here so I can go back to my mother and father. No, man. All emergency shelters were off limits for me. Like, the best I could get was, a few times I was offered to spend the night at these kind of emergency shelters or halfway homes, or places where they might give you a bed for a night. I tried that once. I went in for one night and it was okay. They gave you one small room, and I went in. It was actually clean. In the morning they gave me a whole bunch of macaroni and bologna for food, and that was awesome. And they told me, yeah, that's it, we helped you for tonight, see you later. I was out again. Again, I slept everywhere. I slept outside. I slept at the club where I worked as security. I slept at, friend's place. I spent a lot of times with my accountant at that time. He helped me out a lot. Unfortunately, because he had to go through so much, later on I had to do supervised visit to my kids, and he had to be my supervisor. He decided, like, oh my god, there's too much drama with this, so we're no longer friends. Unfortunately, I owe him money as well too for not being able to pay, like, all the documents he did for us, because again, everything was taken away from me. Another shelter that I turned to, that was, I was provided a number. I called the number. They said, yes, we have a shelter for you. I went in and it was just despicable. They actually gave me a room, but the door could not close, the door could not lock. There was no door handle. The bed was deplorable, absolutely filthy. I just did not take off any of my clothes when I tried to sleep that night. There was holes in the wall that people were punched in, and believe me, when you're in a mental state that I was in, because I was going basically to divorce, I was going to this like twilight zone. The only thing you can think of in a place like that is like, I want to kill myself, basically. Excuse me. And next to me was a gentleman from Africa. His name was Muhammad. And there was another gentleman, I use this word gentleman cautiously, who was a panhandler downtown. I met him so many times, like while working at the club. And he kept banging at this man's door and just, Muhammad, 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 can I ask you a question? Muhammad, Muhammad, do you have $5? Muhammad, Muhammad, do you have cigarettes? Man, I felt like, there was persecution happening, like in Middle East or something like that. Like when I went back in time, it was impossible to stop this guy. This gentleman from Africa kept saying to him, "I don't smoke. I don't have the money. Please leave me alone." It's just the whole place was deplorable. I mean, seriously, like I thought to myself I would rather sleep on a bench outside in the rain than in this place, because I just did not feel comfortable. It was horrible. And believe me, I know, because during the war I slept with 40 Serbs in the room as the only Bosnian. So at night we used to think that, you know, I want to kill them or they all want to kill me, because Bosnians and Serbs fought bitterly during the war. Yet here we are sleeping together, in military barracks. Later on, I ended up living, like a refugee, as a refugee in Serbia for 2 years. I slept on bus stations, I slept in parks. I even changed my own name as Ivan, to introduce myself as an Orthodox Christian rather than Bosnian Muslim, because it was just not safe for me to be there, which is one of the reasons why I came to Canada. But believe me, I never felt worse than being in these shelters. It's not a place to be. These places are not good. They're just drugs. There's people who are suffering, from mental issues, from spiritual issues, and all they have is just basically drugs prescribed to them by doctors, and what they do is they're just consuming them and selling them, and it's mayhem. So I really wanted to avoid that place, and I did. With whatever money I actually had saved, I was able to buy an old van, and you can see that in my video, how not to survive a separation. It was just an empty old work van that I put a mattress in, and I slept in for like one fall and one winter. And I used to, take showers in the local pond. Now that pond is, available for everybody to swim in. It's called George's Pond. At that time, it was off limits. So I had a whole pond for myself to go swim in and, take a shower or whatever. In the middle of the winter, I mean, Jesus, it was bad. So what happened then? I had to go to these caring relationships, caring fathers. I did anger management class with John Howard Society. I showed up to this class. Basically, the instructor told me later on that they were expecting Hannibal Lecter from, The Silence of the Lambs, even though the people in the room were all murderers, people that killed and committed horrific crimes, and they came out of jail and were getting this treatment or whatever called anger management, and I was there being accused of whatever, being dangerous, because I spoke of what's happening in the system, in the society, how at this point 82% of women are single mothers, how there's absolutely no help for men, that it's enough for a woman to say she does not feel comfortable, that the next thing you know, you are removed from your home, emergency protection order is issued, the lawyers are involved, you lose absolutely everything, and then if you don't pay for your alimony for 3 months, you go to jail. I was completely destroyed, spiritually, financially, emotionally, physically. I tried to commit suicide twice. I reached out to, what is the name, these like mental services. There's a walk-in clinic, so you can go to a place and say, I'm suffering mentally, I want to kill myself. They'll talk to you for an hour, and then they say, excuse me, your time is up, go. I was like, I have nowhere to go. I'm gonna sleep on the bench in front here. Sure, they might call the police if you're a danger to somebody else, and if you're a danger to yourself. Really, there's no help. I realized that there is no bottom. You can go so low, so low, so low, so low, until you say to yourself one day, that's it, I'm gonna stop here, then I'm gonna try to climb up. And that's what I did. It's the story of those two balloons that I have, like the yellow and the blue balloon, that meet together, and one balloon says, hey, let's fly. The other one says, sure, let's fly. The blue balloon says, let's fly higher. The yellow balloon says, let's go. The blue balloon says, let's go even higher, and the yellow balloon says, no. So the blue balloon continues on his journey, and the yellow balloon comes back to the earth. It's not a happy ending, whether you continue down this path, which like so many of my friends have gone. I've lost numerous close friends to these prescription drugs. They basically partied themselves to death because there was nothing else for them to do. They could not go back to the society. The pain was just too much. They could not get normal jobs. They could not get normal housing. To get a job, you need to have a car, you need to have clothing, you need to have a good mind. If you're suffering tremendously daily, from so many things, you cannot hold a steady job, so you're gonna lose everything, of course. So the best thing, or the only thing left for you to do, is more pills until you die. I stopped. I pulled myself out of that misery, and this YouTube channel speaks about this. Even though I survived so many different things, I managed to prove, to social services, to police, that look, I am not this guy that you think I am. I never beat my wife, I never cheated on my wife, that I actually care for her and wanted to help her. But because she refuses help, there's nothing I can do. In the meantime, I had to go see psychiatrists, psychologists, I did numerous classes just to get my kids back. And now I have my kids back with me. The city actually helped me, and we got housing. So my kids and I live in housing provided by the city. The government is helping us. We were the chosen ones. We won the lottery, right? Unlike, like I said, so many of my friends who just couldn't pull through. They died. They just died. And the other ones are in these tents. Years ago, when I was a member of Freedom Convoy movement, for which everybody is still making fun of, we were talking about the same thing. This is what's gonna happen. We have problems with drugs, we have problems with homelessness, with housing, and obviously this is a plan, to decrease the number of people, so we can finally enjoy the internet of all things, and we can all be free and happy. So we are just collateral damage, all of us collectively, whether in Israel, Palestine, or here in St. John's, Newfoundland. Again, I fought and I worked really, really, really hard to survive all this. But nevertheless, I'm lucky, like I really am, I was able to pull through, and because of my own experience, because of my own resilience, because of, again, luck, a lot of luck, the community that recognized my contribution to it, that my heart is there. I wear my heart on the sleeve. I want to help everybody. Like, I remember talking to my friends in Serbia who told me, we will never forget that you shared the last food you had with us. And this is why, like, nobody wants to kill me, even though they consider me an enemy, but they realized, he's a good guy. We are all the same, brothers and sisters. We all share everything. And unfortunately, it has come to this point that none of this is really working for us. The system is really designed in such a way that we are all seriously suffering from it. I'm good now. I'm great. I'm perfect. My kids are okay. I am okay. ex-wife is okay. She is, in her own world and doing whatever she wants to do. But how many of us have not been able to actually pull through? I mean, like, we lost our home, we lost our restaurant, we lost basically everything. We're broke and homeless. This is why the city helped us. And all this because we were not able to deal with the issues that are mental, spiritual, and emotional. Good luck to us all. And I'm going back to some other videos in the past because it seems to me that in order for us to understand where we are today, we have to go back in the past. Welcome to my life. Love you all. See you in the next video.